Coming up, step inside a world-class collection at Tullahoma, taking you to the Beechcraft Heritage Museum.
A new eVTOL from a familiar name, and really earning your tailwheel endorsement. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
There are many important things to consider before purchasing an aircraft. Let the experts at Aerospace Reports help guide you through the process. We combine expert knowledge with our long-standing commitment to personalized customer service to perfect your transaction. Learn more at aerospacereports.com.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haynes and Melissa Rudinger.
So here's a question for you. When was the last time you navigated using a VOR? Odds are it's been quite a while.
It's been a while. Everybody from single-seaters to giant airliners now navigate with GPS. The FAA is reducing the number of VORs to what it calls a minimal operational network to be used as a backup to GPS. So now we ask another question. Why does the government keep interfering with the GPS signal so that it's not always available? It's happening again Friday and next Thursday. A U.S. Navy carrier strike group will be jamming GPS signals off the coast of Georgia. The effects of the so-called interference testing will extend as far as Alabama and Virginia. That means GPS navigation might be unreliable and ADS-B unavailable within the affected cone of airspace. The military routinely does this GPS interference testing all over the country, as this map shows. The tests are announced by NOTAM. Now, if you're flying in a testing zone and the interference causes a safety of flight issue for you, call air traffic control and say, "Stop buzzer." Those are the magic words that clues ATC to ask the military to stop jamming GPS.
So this has surprisingly been a tougher issue to solve than we thought. We had an RTCA working group 2 years ago that came up with some mitigations, and they're starting to implement them. But in the meantime, the testing continues, and we don't have the full mitigation measures in place. So it's a pretty serious issue. We haven't had any significant incidents yet with GA, but we're very concerned.
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, it's amazing how much GPS is integrated into our daily lives. AOPA was a very early advocate of GPS for civilian use. Our 1990 report to Congress, "The Future Is Now," ultimately led to scrapping a mandate for MODES transponders in every aircraft and the expensive microwave landing system in favor of GPS. The first published GPS approach was to AOPA's home airport in Frederick. But the funny thing, today, aviation is just a tiny fraction of the total GPS user universe. We all have GPS in our phones and most of us in our cars, but navigation is just a small part of GPS. A recent report to the Department of Commerce estimated that a major GPS outage would cost $1 billion a day in losses. The cell phone system wouldn't work without GPS timing signals. The electric grid relies on GPS, precision agricultural technologies, high-frequency Wall Street stock trading. All in all, GPS provides major benefits to at least 10 leading sectors of the economy.
It's been over 5 months since the Boeing 737 MAX crashes stirred up major questions about the FAA's process for certifying aircraft. Now in the aftermath, a new committee will advise the Secretary of Transportation on aviation safety and certification. 2 AOPA leaders will join that committee. AOPA Board of Trustees member William Ayre will serve as chairman. AOPA Foundation Board of Advisors member Shelley DeZavalos was also nominated. Together, Bill and Shelley will work to represent the interests of general aviation. An update on the Cessna Latitude accident involving Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his family. The NTSB preliminary report is out, and contrary to what some witnesses said, the NTSB says the aircraft touched down near the touchdown zone and bounced twice. The pilots attempted to go around, but said the aircraft didn't respond and it bounced a third time, collapsing the right main gear. The aircraft slid off the runway and caught fire as the passengers and crew got out without major injury.
It's one of the greatest feats of airmanship and crew resource management of all time. This week, survivors are remembering the pilot of United Flight 232. Captain Haynes, no relation, is credited with saving hundreds of lives. He died this week. On July 19, 1989, Haynes was flying a DC-10 from Denver to Chicago. The tail-mounted engine suffered an uncontained fan disc failure. It severed all 3 hydraulic systems on the aircraft, and with them, the flight controls. The crew was able to use differential power for the 2 remaining engines to keep the airplane under control, ultimately landing on the runway at Sioux City, Iowa. The airplane broke apart on impact and ended up in a cornfield, but 185 people survived. Haynes sidestepped the title hero.
There is no hero. There is just a group of 4 people who did their job, and it was an unusual circumstance, but we put our best resources and knowledge together and did what we thought was best.
Haynes frequently spoke about the flight to aviation groups. He retired from United in 1991, spent 33 years as a Little League umpire and a high school football announcer. Captain Al Haynes was 87 years old. This footage is courtesy of KELO TV. They have recently produced a short documentary on the United 232 disaster. You can find it on their YouTube channel. Just search KELOland News.
On a much happier note, our fly-in to Tullahoma, Tennessee will be here soon. There's 2 full days of great activities for you to enjoy in the beautiful Middle Tennessee. In fact, right on the airport, you'll find a world-class aircraft collection. AOPA Live's Paul Harrop shows us the Beechcraft Heritage Museum.
It's more of an experience than just walking through a building looking at aircraft.
It's one of the world's premier aircraft collections, and it's all things beach. The Beechcraft Heritage Museum needs to be at the tip-top of your Tullahoma to-do.
It's a long history. We're about almost 50 years old now.
It started out of a group of Staggerwing owners as the Staggerwing Museum, but quickly evolved into something much more.
EA has on loan to us the 1925 serial number 1 Travel Air. Behind us right here is one of our premier exhibits, the Mr. Ship Racer, which just has a world of history.
But it's hard to rank the precious displays in these hangars. Newly expanded to house more aircraft, it's bigger and better than when we last held our fly-in here. From Earth-rounders to war heroes to examples of the bleeding edge of innovation, this museum would put a smile on Walter Beech's face.
I get goosebumps kind of thinking about it because he would be proud. Mr. Wells, Ted Wells, who helped him design the Staggerwing, I almost feel as if they walk around here some. Mrs. Beech, and there's a true good feeling, good vibe here.
And the setting certainly won't harsh that mellow.
We see ourselves as a campus with a museum to tour with interesting artifacts and aircraft, obviously, and then also a beach park that people can come as guests of ours and camp.
And if you're camping at the fly-in, this will be your home for 2 days. Not bad at all.
We want everyone that enjoys aviation to come experience this.
So a wide variety of aircraft for you to see here at the Beechcraft Heritage Museum, from the very first Beech before it was even called Beechcraft to the Starship and beyond. Nearly 40 airplanes for you to check out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go make some airplane noises in the left seat of this Starship. Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
The event runs September 13th and 14th. Make your plans now. You can find all the details on our fly-in website. It's coming up quick.
It is coming up quick, and that Paul does a nice job on that piece. The Heritage Museum is unbelievable. It's really worth the time, and what a great camping space too. Looks like a lot of fun.
It does. I'm looking forward to it. Coming up, a new eVTOL from a familiar name.
And taking your final exam for a tailwheel endorsement. We'll be right back.
The people of AOPA's Legal Services Plan work to help protect your certificates, and they love to fly as much as you do. The AOPA Legal Services Plan is offered as part of our Pilot Protection Services. It's a members-only benefit provided to thousands of pilots like you.
Welcome back. Well, this time, it actually happened. The FAA has switched to the mandatory use of the International Flight Plan for all IFR and VFR flights. Previous deadlines for the switch have come and gone over the years, but this one is for real, effective last Tuesday. Your favorite flight planning app is probably already set up for the International Form, also known as the ICAO Form. AOP's online flight planner is also compliant, and Lido's flight service is also set up for the ICAO Form. They even have a video tutorial.
The ICAO Flight Plan Form and the Domestic Flight Plan Form are different. However, they do contain many of the same fields. The ICAO Flight Plan is a more detailed flight plan than that of the Domestic Flight Plan. Let's now go through each field of the ICAO Flight Plan to better understand what is required.
I think that's the same guy who records the ATIS at most of the airports around.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But it's kind of funny. So this is, we're making the change at NAV Canada's request. They've actually been requesting since the 90s to do this. We fought them tooth and nail.
Decades.
Yeah, we fought them for a while, but with all the automation now with flight plan filing, it makes sense because there's more equipment codes, and with all the new equipment, it was time. But it's just kind of interesting. The reason it's been delayed is problems on the NAV Canada side, not the U.S. So it's kind of funny because they're the ones that have been pushing for it for so long. And speaking of Canada, NAV Canada is switching to the ICAO NOTAM format on October 10th. The switch means a change in how you access NOTAMs for north of the border. Once they make the switch, NOTAMs will be accessed through the Collaborative Flight Planning Services website. You can find out more on NAV Canada's website. Oh, and by the way, user fees in Canada, they're going up next month, and that's to help pay for the cost of providing space-based ADS-B surveillance in Canada and over the North Atlantic. UPS wants permission to fly drones over people. In a notice published last week in the Federal Register, UPS Flight Forward petitioned the FAA for an exemption so that it can fly medical sample delivery drones over people at night and beyond line of sight under Part 135 commercial operations. The drone is currently being flown by the manufacturer under Part 107. UPS Flight Forward is a new subsidiary of the package delivery giant, developing drones for commercial package delivery.
And Bell just flew an eVTOL with a similar mission. The APT-70 takes off like a normal quadcopter and then transitions to fly like an airplane. The innovative design allows it to fly over 100 miles per hour, carrying 70 pounds of cargo. Similar to UPS's plans, Bell designed it to deliver packages and also provide medical transport and disaster relief.
It sounds like a nightmare scenario, dual engine flameout on a twin-jet air ambulance. You may remember the headline of the Citation II having total engine failure due to contamination with diesel exhaust fluid. It happened near Savannah back in May, and the pilots involved are our guests on the latest edition of the AOPA Air Safety Institute's There I Was podcast.
At that point, it's a glider. There's nothing else we can do. We did discuss what systems are going to work and what systems are not going to work. What problems do we expect from here on in? So we both suggested, okay, well, if the engines aren't running, we're not going to have hydraulics, which leaves out speed brakes. We don't mind. We're going to be coming in low and slow, and the field is plenty long enough.
You can find the full clip, and it's fascinating, on the Air Safety Institute's website.
Bearhawk Aircraft has a new model that would be perfect for tailwheel training. It's called the Companion. The company hasn't released any pictures of the new design yet, but it will look similar to the Bearhawk 4-place shown here. It'll have 2 seats side by side. The new model is meant to fill the gap between Bearhawk's 2-seat light sport aircraft and its 4-seat heavy hauler. All the Bearhawk models come as experimental amateur-built kits. Speaking of tailwheel training, before AOPA pilot editor-at-large Dave Hirschman will sign off on a tailwheel endorsement, he takes his students on a challenging flight. Take a look at his tailwheel final exam.
This is a final exam for pilots seeking a tailwheel endorsement. We'll visit 3 airstrips that are very close geographically, but far different in the challenges they present. My friend and AOPA colleague David Tulis and I have flown together for about 10 hours in a Piper Super Cub, and this flight will force him to demonstrate the new skills he's learned.
Frederick Tower, Super Cub 2884 Papa, ready for takeoff, runway 23.
First, we take off from AOPA's home base in Frederick, Maryland, and head for an out-of-the-way turf strip. It's short, lumpy, and obstructed, and there's a mud bog on the right side. David handles the approach, landing, and then a short field takeoff with ease.
Full power.
Next, we fly to Clearview Air Park, where a narrow, hilly, 1,800-foot runway gives pilots an unusual sight picture on final approach. David hasn't been here before. I've been saving this special place just for today. We're slightly high and fast on our first approach, and the Super Cub touches down right of the center line and bounces.
Power is your friend.
Yeah, and early decision is a good thing too. So it was a good call.
David's next approach is on speed and on target, and he touches down on center line and rolls out straight ahead. Then he prepares for a downhill takeoff on runway 32, which looks a little bit like a ski jump.
That little forward stick. Nice job.
Finally, it's back home to Frederick, a busy tower-controlled airport where David must fit the slow Super Cub into a mix of faster traffic. A smooth touchdown on runway 23 shows he's earned his tailwheel endorsement, and that opens the door to some of the most interesting, historic, and beloved airplanes ever made. Enjoy the ride. Dave Hirschman, AOPA Live.
Way to go, Dave Tulis. Nicely done.
Yes, and boy, Dave puts them through the paces. I mean, Clearview is notorious.
It is notorious, and the other one is pretty challenging as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's our program for this week. Thanks for watching, and do us one better, will you? If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe.
And as always, let us know what you think, either with a comment or an email to the address on your screen. We'll see you next week.
Purchasing your own aircraft is an exciting experience. AOPA Finance simplifies the process, saving you money with lower interest rates and hassle-free loans, so you get into your new aircraft sooner. AOPA Finance, the right approach to buying an aircraft.